Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. We are really excited today. We have a bonus episode for you. We are talking about Grease, Rise of the Pink Ladies, season 1. And I am film critic Rachel Wagner, and Kristen Maldonado is here.
Yes, I'm so excited to talk about the show. I love it so much. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So actually, you had inspired me to watch the show because I'd watched the pilot and I was just super busy and it just didn't hook me as a pilot. But you were like, it's really good, trust me. So then I watched, and I feel like it takes a couple, for me at least, it takes a couple episodes for me to kind of, okay, I'm in. And then it did. So thank you for encouraging me.
I'm happy to pass along a recommendation to a fellow theater lover.
Yes. Yes. So this was on Paramount Plus. We got 10 episodes, first season. And I have to admit, I watched this during Christmas Con. And so I don't have my normal notes, but I have some notes. So bear with us here, but we're going to have fun. So share, if you're listening, share in the comments what you think of each episode and what you thought of the show. But yeah, it's on Paramount Plus. And I guess we should start out by sharing our feelings about Grease in general. Especially for you, you have some interesting opinions on that.
Mhm.
So for me, I always really enjoyed the music of Grease. I think it's super catchy, very, very fun songs, but I always hated the ending. But last year I reviewed both theater and both stage and screen versions over on my channel. Put a link if people want to watch that over on Rachel's reviews. And I did think of it a little bit differently because she doesn't really completely change who she is for Danny. She doesn't feel confident, and she tells Frenchie, help me feel more confident. So there is more to it than just Danny. And I think I kind of appreciated that a little bit more on this last watch of it. And also there is something, I think, to the fact that Danny also changes for her. And he's wearing the Letterman's jacket and getting all, harassed about it. I'm not going to say it's like my favorite ending in the world, but I had a little more nuance to it on this last rewatch. But it does, I think, try to tackle some more weighty issues than like a light, fluffy musical like this might be given credit for, and especially with Rizzo and her kind of the slut shaming, that she has to deal with, and her thing she might be pregnant and all of that. And so there is some, I think, things to give the show credit for what it tries to do. And I mean, you have incredible chemistry as far as the movie with Olivia Newton-John and John Travolta, and the dancing. So for me, I really enjoy it, flaws and all, I guess. But I know that you have a somewhat unpopular opinion about Grease.
Yeah, I have never liked Grease. It's been one of my least favorite musicals probably of all time. I've never truly enjoyed a production of it. I think the one that I was kind of I don't hate this was when they did that Grease Live, which I was surprised because usually I feel like those live productions, with Fox and whatever, aren't always that great. But I was like, okay, interesting.
Well, then it got Laura Osnes.
Yeah.
Hallmark leading lady.
Yes. And so
that show.
I've never really liked Grease. Kind of what you were saying, that message at the end of I kind of feel like I always took away that they were changing who they were to fit in. I recently rewatched the movies, the first one and the second one, because I was doing a really intense deep dive of connections with Rise of the Pink Ladies. And there were definitely things that I like you said, some nuances that I saw that I was okay, interesting. I think, especially like you said with Rizzo, I mean, I think Rizzo and Sandy have two of the best songs with There Are Worse Things I Could Do and Hopelessly Devoted.
Which hopefully that was for the movie.
Yeah, which were just for the movie.
Yeah,
Yeah, just for the movie. But and you know, there were like some fun moments where like, you know, I kind of like appreciated John Travolta's acting more, like watching him like, you know, try to pull off the ring to give to Sandy, and then he starts like kind of laughing because it is kind of funny that he bangs into her, like just like little things like that that were cute.
Yeah.
But overall, like I don't like Grease. I've never been a fan of Grease. I
Yeah.
hate going to block parties and sweet 16s and constantly hearing Summer Nights. Like it's just a staple out here that
Yes.
I hear it, and I'm like, it's like hearing Sweet Caroline, like another one. I don't like it.
You were like triggered at the
Yeah.
Tonys when they were
No, I was like, no, bring back Sweetie Todd.
That's hilarious.
But you know, so I've never been a fan of Grease. I think though, watching this show and then going back and watching Grease, one of the things that I always appreciate is Easter eggs and references. And so I loved that there were so many little nods in this show to the original. So I was surprised, honestly, that I liked this show. And for me, it was, I mean, you know, we love musicals. Like I said, Grease is not one of my favorites. I've never been a fan of it, but I was on TikTok and TikTok did its thing. And one of the stars of the show was breaking down one of her performances in a TikTok. And I was like, wait, is that really good? Is that really good?
Yes.
And I literally stayed up till like 5 a.m. watching as many episodes as there were available at that time. And I was like hooked from the first episode. I know you said it took a little while for you to get into it, but like, I was like cackling in my bed at like 5 a.m. with some of the stuff that was going on that I thought was really funny, or like I was really impressed by the musical numbers, and like even some of the stuff that they like redid, like the opening of Grease is the word. Like, I don't know, I loved it. Like I thought their take I really enjoyed.
I think that was a very risky choice, because it's kind of like in Fantasia 2000, they decide to have the Sorcerer's Apprentice, you know, thing in there, and I'm like, you shouldn't do that, because that's immediately going to make everybody compare these new shorts to the old short, and it's not gonna hold up. And so I think that was a risky choice. I don't think it was bad. I think it was fine, but it just immediately makes you think, oh, okay, this is the original, you know. And I think the songs are super catchy in Grease, very, very good bops. But yeah, I kind of wish, like, the music was hit and miss for me in this show. I there's some good, we'll talk about some of the, I think, good songs, but in general it was a little poppy for my, like, I wish that they had embraced musical theater a little bit more in the arrangements. They were a little, like, felt like decom light to me sometimes, but
it was just funny. I loved them. For the most part, I loved this soundtrack. Oh, going back to what you said really quickly about the Grease is the word, I feel like why it worked for me was because in the original, they're not performing it. It's just like a opening credits.
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
So I feel like to see them performing it did feel different. But like the music in general, like I'm really into more of like the modern kind of musical theater sound, like Hamilton's and you know, things like that. So to me, I loved the like pop kind of soundtrack, and I felt like the musical theater stuff was coming through a lot more for me in the performances. Like I thought they were a little bit bigger in their acting. It felt like they were going a little bit bigger, but in a purposeful way to kind of pay tribute to that musical theater background.
I can see that.
That's where I kind of got that from. And then, you know, there were so many references as well. Like I felt like I was seeing references to West Side Story and Bye Bye Birdie.
Yes.
And so it was like paying tribute to like the musicals of that time, as well as, you know, not just being focused on Grease, like being able to go beyond that a little bit more.
One thing that I was a little bit unsure of how I felt about was I wasn't sure how what did they call it? Like how fantastical we were supposed to, like, this is not gritty 1950s. You know, that they have some mention of themes of racism and classism and things like that, but we're also just supposed to accept the fact that they have a integrated play with no controversy at all in the 1950s, and, you know, things like that. I don't know. How did you feel about that how they handled, because they have, you know, they have a very diverse cast. But they don't really like take on those themes head on.
I really liked it, and I thought that they did tackle a lot of that throughout the show, because I felt like the original Grease was focused on like this very white kind of straight group of people, and
Hmm.
this Pink Lady show was more showing like the everyone else kind of that was, you know, there at the same time but maybe not having their stories told. I mean, like the main cast of our Pink Ladies is like, you know, Asian, Latino,
Hmm.
queer. And I really like that we got to focus on their stories. And I feel like with Jane, we got to see her kind of struggle trying to figure out like, am I like Puerto Rican enough, you know, with her Puerto Rican and um, Italian identity, and the fact that like her mom didn't want people to know that she was Puerto Rican because they were afraid that like it was going to
Yeah.
get them kind of pushed out of the town, like that they weren't going to be as accepted. And I think you really see that when they go visit the country
Hmm.
club. And that's like a big theme, is like that whole idea of that, like they keep going to the same country club that not everyone's accepted at, and that most of these kids at the school can't even go to normally unless it's the school dance. And like wanting to be like, you know, we don't even want to be a part of your country club, we're going to have the dance at our school, and like, you know, bring more inclusion in. And I thought that they also like had a lot of like small little references to things that like if you picked up on them, um you know, they were talking about race in different ways, like seeing Wally and his white girlfriend, and you know, for Halloween they're dressed up in these different costumes, and he's like, well, why couldn't I have been a doctor? My dad's a doctor. And she's like, wait, he is? And was kind of like surprised by that.
Hmm.
Or the fact that like Hazel had a Howard University banner in her room, you know, like representing like an HBCU, and things like that. And I thought that they did it in like big ways and subtle ways as well for people.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so I really appreciate it, especially as like a Latino watching the story and being like, wow, two of the Pink Ladies are Latina. And like, you know, you get to go in and see Olivia's home, and what it's like having, you know, family over and listening to the Spanish music and everything. So I thought they did a pretty decent job, especially because in the original Grease you don't see anything like that at all. Um,
Yeah.
so I
Yeah,
enjoyed.
it's more of in the original Grease, it's more of a like, I guess, class kind of a thing. Like the Thunderbirds are kind of um lower on the high school totem pole, you know, and somebody like Sandy, you know, is supposed to be kind of higher up, you know, as far as the high school goes, you know, kind of a thing. Um
I feel
and
like in the original Grease, I thought like the Pink Ladies were a little bit of bullies at times. Like,
yeah,
you
I
know,
can see
Rizzo
that.
making fun of Sandy, and it just felt like if
Yeah.
Sandy wasn't like doing the rebel stuff like them, that she didn't fit in. And
Hmm.
I like that this was more like about embracing who you are as a person and your identity, and then like finding people that are also like you, or not even necessarily like you, but also don't fit in to the mold
Hmm.
like everyone
Yeah.
else.
Ho, ho, ho! We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind the scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
It was interesting to look because when I was well, I mean, one of the things that people remember about Grease was that they cast like very old people to play these high school students. I mean, I think that John Travolta was one of the younger ones. I think he was 23, and everybody else was like, and I think Stockard Channing was like 35. I mean, she was way And so it was kind of interesting that I thought that just looking that I felt like Olivia looked way older than everybody else, but she actually wasn't. She was around the same age as I think she's 26 or something like that. The oldest one was Nancy in the cast, which was interesting. I thought so she's 32, the actress who plays Nancy. So I think it is somewhat helpful because when you have teens play like kind of when they give them sort of more mature storylines in a show like this, it kind of helps it not feel as awkward because they're not actually played by teenagers.
Nowadays, like unless it's like the only show I could think of that like really was casting like young people to play their age was like Degrassi, but like Glee, they were all like 30
Oh my gosh,
playing teenagers. And I actually had heard, I don't know if this is like true or not, I never really like thought about it, but apparently people were saying that the original Grease was sort of supposed to be like a satire of the 50s, and that's why like some of the people were older.
Oh, really?
And that like that's why they have the whole like the ending where they fly off in the car, because it was like a satire of like movies of that time. I don't know, maybe that went over my head. I don't know.
It was definitely 1970s take on the 50s. It's kind of like Dirty Dancing was very similar too. It was like that was like 1980s take on 60s. Like it's
I mean, this even I feel like is 2020's take on the 50s. I mean, there's one part I remember where Dot was like talking about her bunker that her family has, and she was like, BYOF, bring your own food. That's definitely not something they would have said in the 50s.
Right. Yeah. Well, let's talk about our leads and then we'll kind of go over the episodes a little bit. So we had in our pink ladies, we have Jane, Olivia, Cynthia, Nancy, and then Hazel gets kind of added into the group a little bit. So Jane is our lead character, Marissa Davila. And she's living the dream, like the nerdy girl dream here. She's got both Buddy and Richie.
I love triangles in this show. I feel like the love triangles were like the least important part. Like to me, I thought the girls were the best part. Like Jane was one of my favorites for sure. I loved her song, I Want More. That was,
in my opinion, the highlight musically of the whole show. I Want More.
And I don't know, there was something about her, the way that she was acting, that I really like believed her, and I felt like she was like a little cinnamon bun. Like when that one scene with her and Richie where she's like, I don't want your jacket, I have my own. I was like, that's her own jacket. She's an
Poor Richie. Woman. I felt bad for him though.
She's an independent woman. She don't need your jacket.
Yes.
You should take her jacket.
And Nancy, she designs the jacket. So, and comes up because she has a whole bunch of different pitches, like what does she call them? Like the cherry pickers or something like that.
The cherries, something cherries.
Cherry pits or something.
And then the yellow jackets. And those are fun because I feel like those were references. I mean, maybe I'm reaching, but like Yellow Jackets is also a show under Paramount, just like this one is. So I was like, that has to be a reference.
Yeah.
And then the cherries, I mean, you got Marty Maraschino, you got the cherry sodas that Danny and Sandy drank. So like
that's a good pick. So then there's Olivia.
Yes.
And I thought the cringe plot line was with her and was it Mr. Daniels?
Yeah.
I hate how that is just like a thing in almost every teen show like this. There's always a teacher-student relationship plot. Even I think Dawson's Creek is one of the best of these like teen. I thought that the writing on that show was really good. But even that show has like the first season has a teen teacher relationship, and I don't feel like they needed it on here. I mean, it was very kind of shocking for I don't know, shock is right, but it was weird for me to see Chris McNally, who I'm so used to on One Calls the Heart, to be playing this like skeevy teacher.
I love that there's so many like Hallmark references.
I know.
Yeah. Show,
Yeah, there's quite a few because like Fiona Vroom, who plays I think Susan, plays Susan's mom.
Mhm.
She's in a ton of Hallmark. I think this was filmed in Vancouver. 'Cause it
Yeah,
had
yeah,
a bunch
yeah.
of a bunch
Mhm.
of Hallmark people,
Really.
but Chris McNally is one of the leads on one called The Heart. He's
Mhm.
Elizabeth's new, I guess, boyfriend on the show.
Oh my
Um,
God.
and so for him to be playing this skeevy teacher was definitely a little jarring, I think is
Yeah. I think that like they definitely I wish they did a little bit more, but like they definitely had moments where like the girls were like, he's old, he's creepy. Like, but
yeah.
I wish that Olivia had a moment where she was like, you're like, this was wrong, you know?
Yeah.
Like you and it's like you're the one that should know better. But like
hmm
they didn't exactly have that moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're supposed to respect him more because he actually wants to marry her, I guess. Um,
Uh,
but then at the end, when I think it's Jane says, or Olivia, or
Nancy
oh, was it
slapped
Nancy?
him.
Yeah, like she was a child.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But I could have done without that whole plot. I don't know. I think there was enough going on with Olivia that we didn't really need it. And I'm just, I, there, I don't know. It's just such a weird thing that's a part of almost every teen.
Yeah.
My friends have told me that I guess on Riverdale, there's a big plot with that. I just like almost every teen
Oh, there was,
show.
yeah, in the beginning, the beginning season,
Yeah.
yeah.
It, oh, I don't like it. But anyway, yeah. What did you think overall of Olivia as a character?
I liked Olivia. I agree that I don't, I'm not a fan of stories like that with like the teacher. I would have loved to see her be like, get out of here. Um, but yeah, I really liked her and her voice. She
hmm
had some really good songs,
Yeah.
and I liked getting a chance to like see inside her family and the fact that she like had that connection to the T-Birds with her brother and everything. Like felt like it's like they're really building the little world up.
Yeah. Yeah. So then there's Cynthia, and
Yeah.
she starts out as sort of the tomboy of the group, but she also wants to be she doesn't even want to be a pink lady, she wants to be a thunderbird
Yeah,
at
yeah, yeah, yeah.
first. Yeah.
She reminded
um
me of Anybody's from West Side Story a little bit, and then
yeah, I can see that.
Michael from Grease too, because he gets in with the T-Birds as well. Um, so I loved her. I love that character. I think Ari uh Notre Tomaso is incredible. Like the vocals they have,
hmm
unreal. And I think they've had some of the most viral songs on like TikTok and things.
oh yeah.
In Crushing Me and Merely Players, like people are really into it. And I think they bring about like such a great representation, because you're getting to see, I feel like a character like I feel like a character like Anybody's in West Side Story like has an interesting background, but you don't get to like really learn that much about them. And so the fact that they're like a main character in this, I
hmm
think is so awesome. And the fact that like Ari is like this non-binary person who like felt like playing this role helped them learn more about themselves, I
hmm
thought was really, really cool, and just like really great representation. And they were
hmm
like one of the standouts, I thought, of the Pink Ladies.
yeah, it was good. It was
But yeah.
good. And she ends up her character ends up uh getting the lead in the Romeo and Juliet. And because the drama teacher's like, we're gonna do the tomboy and the popular kid or whatever. And so then she starts doing rehearsals with the head of the thespian. Her and Lydia, uh they start doing rehearsals for Romeo and Juliet. And the uh the things get real quick
Yeah,
for
I love
them.
that.
There,
The
there.
Merely Players like sequence I thought was so cool. And I had
hmm
watched a video about how they put that scene together, or how they put that like musical number
Yeah.
together. And Jamal Sims, who was the director and choreographer, was talking about how like they really wanted to put queer people in genres of movies that like you don't always see them in, so like Singing in the Rain and things like that,
hmm
so that they could like really show that positive representation in like love stories,
hmm
which I thought was really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. So then there was Nancy,
Yes.
and Nancy works at the diner with
Mm-hmm.
it's her family
Her
works there, right?
family,
Yeah.
her family owns the Frosty Palace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's also the designer for the play, the costume designer, and she can't make any choices. She can't decide. So yeah, we should talk about that a little bit, that the production value on the show, they really spent money. This show looks great.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
The colors, the costumes, it's so vibrant. That was
Yeah.
really impressed by that. I
Yeah.
would say with Nancy, I really like her because I feel like she's so quirky and different, and I liked her relationship with that T-bird potato. But I feel like she didn't have like as much going on in her story as everyone else did. Like I wanted her to have like a little bit more of a story. It was kind of like she was supporting everyone else and
Mhm.
like, the comedic relief.
Yeah, she gets the one big episode of You're Dropping Out of Rydell. I think that was her big episode, you
Mhm.
know, where there's sort of the homage to Beauty School Dropout and but yeah, she's probably the least developed of any of these four.
Did you know that the person playing the teen angel is the person who wrote all the music?
No, I didn't know that. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah. I thought that was so cool. That's Justin Tranter, who's this like, I mean, they wrote all 31 songs, but they're also like this crazy hit maker. They did like Justin Bieber's Sorry, Centuries by Fall Out Boy, you know, music for like, I don't know, just so many Ariana Grande, so many people.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was really impressive that they did all 31 songs and then did this cameo as a teen angel, paying tribute to like the original Teen
Mhm.
Angel with Frankie Avalon, but then also they were talking about paying a little bit of homage to Billy Porter in the Grease revival, which I don't know if
Oh
that,
yeah.
oh my god, that number that he does is insane. And then also paying tribute to like Rocky Horror and Hedwig and the Angry Inch and David Bowie with the hair, but then Frenchie by making it pink. And I thought just like all those little details make it so cool. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it's fun. So then we have Hazel,
Yes.
and yeah, hers was the one that I I don't know. I just felt like I'm a little bit confused what they want me to do with this character, because um I just felt like there's no way that this group at this time would have this integrated play and it caused no reaction at all. That I don't know, I just felt like, are we supposed to take her character as a realistic character or as a not realistic character? I wasn't sure. And then like I felt like they were building up this relationship between Buddy and Hazel, and like interracial marriage was illegal at this time. Not that they're getting married, but like it wasn't made legal until 1967. And so again, are we supposed to be looking at this as like a fantasy of the two of them, kind of the banter and everything, or are we supposed to look at it as, I don't know, I was just a little bit confused with her character.
Hmm. I guess I took the show in general as like a heightened, you know, different type of world in a
Mm-hmm.
way where we're like, you know, I mean, Greece is right, like an over the top kind
Yeah.
of musical, you know, teen, I don't know, paradise in a way, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I thought what I found confusing about Hazel was I thought it was cool that she kind of came in the third episode and we're seeing like her on the outside looking at what everyone else was doing. So scenes that we'd already watched,
Mm-hmm.
seeing her like on the side there.
Yeah.
And then I felt like the rest of her story was, I felt like her and Buddy were sort of the Troy and Gabriella from High School Musical of this story where he's like, am I a jock? Am I a thespian? And she's like, I'm just a science nerd. But like,
Yeah.
you know, it was like, but then all of a sudden when she jumps to showing up in Jane's room trying to get advice on like what to do about her like love triangle situation with her, Buddy, and Wally, I was like, wait, they're friends? Like I felt like it
Yeah.
jumped a little. And I think that like Jane has always been in the different scenes like open to being like, Hazel, come hang out with us. But I felt like it just, I don't know, when she walked through that window and was like, hey, can I get your help? I was like, oh, I feel like we needed a
Mm-hmm.
couple more scenes in there before we got to that.
Yeah, because we just barely seen Jane kissing Buddy, so like for Hazel to be, you know, yeah, I felt that too. I can see what you're
Yeah.
saying. Yeah,
But
yeah,
but then, you know, obviously they all come together they help each other out and, become.
Yeah.
Today's episode of the podcast is sponsored by W Rated, the podcast where we willingly watch the world's worst rated movies. Join me, Daisy.
And me, Claire, as we break down the IMDb Bottom 100, choosing a different film from the list every episode.
We take a deep dive into the plot, production, release, and reviews, usually with a special guest, to uncover if these films are truly as bad as everyone says they are.
You can find us on Spotify, Apple, Good Pods, and anywhere else you find your podcasts.
As far as the boys, we have Richie,
Mhm.
and I thought that he was extremely swoon worthy. He was great.
Mhm. The little slick back
Yes.
hair, like the T-birds.
Yeah, but I felt like, did he get another show or something? Because all of a sudden he was kind of just gone for the last half of the show.
I
We didn't
don't
even get
know.
him in the finale. I don't think he was even in it.
No, he wasn't.
No.
Yeah. I don't know
That
what
was
happened.
weird.
I know people have been sharing the clip on Twitter and TikTok and everything. I don't know what happened, but I hope if we get a second season that he'll come back.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I thought for sure they would have just like a scene with them getting back together at the end, because
Mhm.
that seemed to be where everything was going. But they just kind of stuck with the girls
Mhm.
in the finale. But yeah, I was surprised that yeah, it made me wonder. I'm like, I bet he must have gotten another job or something, because
Uh,
who knows? If you're out there, let us know. Uh, but so then we have Buddy, and Buddy is he starts out as the boyfriend of Jane, and Jane does have, I think, a lot of confidence for a nerdy girl.
mhm.
Like, she doesn't seem to have any like nervousness or hesitation about dating or being with either Buddy or Richie. She
Mhm.
she just goes for it, which yeah. Definitely wouldn't have been me. I would have been very nervous. So way to
But
go.
I thought Buddy was, well, first of all, I loved his song Pulling Strings, and I thought he had like the most compelling story of the guys, because it was just really interesting to watch this guy who, like, he's not a bad person, but he's
Mhm.
kind of just like caught up in whatever everyone else tells him he should be or should be doing. And then having to like go through this journey of learning like what are like, just because it's not affecting you, like what should you be doing so that you're like actually being a good person and not just like, doing whatever your
Yeah.
mind says.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And I mean, I think that's part of growing up, is realizing that you don't have to make the same choices as your parents, and becoming your own person. And that's what he realizes through the course of this, that he doesn't have to make the same choices as his father. His father's running for like mayor, I think. And so his father's, orchestrating everything and changing everything. And you've got this student election, and he finds out that it's been rigged, the election results.
mhm.
And so he first doesn't say anything, but then finally he does.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean, I think it was a pretty good arc. He kind of has a love triangle himself, because he's got Susan, who he'd been dating, who's sort of the she's kind of the Patty of this of this show, as far as Grease goes. And she starts out as a real jerk. I guess we should have talked about her as far as the ladies, but and then she kind of comes around a little bit by the end. But then he's got he has Hazel, but then he also has Jane, of course.
Mhm.
So everybody's interested in Buddy.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah. So then we had Wally, and I thought Wally was an interesting character, because Hazel says, like, everyone just thinks that we should be together.
Mhm.
They do look like a great match.
Mhm.
I mean, not just because they're both Black, of course, but because they just have like a similar kind of nerdy style, I think.
I loved their song, "And Don't Look So Bad." I
Yes.
think it was oh my gosh, one of my favorite numbers.
I agree. And the dancing was really strong in
It's
that
kind of
song.
like Singing in the Rain meets like
Yeah.
the Temptations, like,
Yeah.
oh, I think I want Wally to have like more going on because I want to hear him sing more because he had one of the best voices, I
Yeah.
thought.
I
Yeah.
agree. So then the last of the guys, I mean, there were a bunch, but the main guys, this guy named Potato.
Potato was so funny. He and
Yeah.
Nancy were so funny
Yeah.
together.
I really liked them a lot. It was really funny. And he's just kind of like up for whatever she's into. He's like, okay, fine. That'll be
Yeah.
fine.
I don't know if you caught at the end when she's like trying to apologize to him and then being like, I get bored easily, and he's like, he quoted the same thing that Sandy says to Danny, like, you're like, forget you, like that little line, that whole thing.
Oh,
Then
yeah.
literally like word for word what Sandy said to Danny, you're a fake, you're a phony.
Oh, yeah.
At the drive-in when he's acting too cool, and she's like, you're the same guy I met at the beach, Oh, I thought that was really funny. There was a lot of great connections there.
Yeah, he was good. He was really funny. That was good.
Yeah. I think we also got to mention Gil, the leader of the T-Birds, and best friends with Richie. I loved, and I think that just going off of that, like we find out that he's Betty Rizzo's older brother, and that Jane is the older sister of a young Frenchie. Like those references I really thought were so cool. Seeing like the Principal McGill before she's principal, or sorry, Principal McGee before she's principal, when she's the assistant principal, stuff like that I thought was really cool.
Yeah, I thought that they did a really good job with Principal McGee. She felt very similar to that similar role in Grease.
Yeah, I thought all those castings were like really on. I was impressed.
Yeah.
Because that's hard to try to find the right type of person to like recreate a role like that.
Yeah.
I thought they all did really good.
I agree. Well, let's talk about the episodes real quick. So we started out with We're Gonna Rule the School. That was the first episode. And it's on their first day of junior year at Rydell High, 4 outcasts form an unlikely friendship that will shake up the social order. And I think that, like I said, I felt like it was bold to start out with Grease is the word, to immediately, but I think it was effective to immediately kind of bring in those connections. And I think what this show did well, in my opinion, is that it had all those Easter eggs, it had all those connections, but it still was defiantly its own thing. And I think that's what you want in this kind of reboot, because if it's just like, remember this, then I don't need it. I can just watch the original. I have it, like there's no reason. It's the kind of like these live Disney live action remakes where it's like, why did this exist? We don't even need it. But this, it took all of those tools. It had all the fun little wink, wink, but it was its own thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I was really impressed by that first musical number. I thought that I feel like that even just from that musical number, like the way that they brought everyone in, it was like very clear who is who, was like, I feel like they set that up like really, really well from the beginning. And there was, like you said, like there was so many little like Easter eggs that were just like really cool to see them do like their own tributes and takes, but in a way that like some of the things you might not even realize unless you go back and like watch the movies and be like, oh wait, like when they're in the car, Jane and Buddy say the exact same things as Sandy and Danny did on the beach. Like, is this over? No, it's just the beginning, or like even the way that they're like gossiping about Jane and Buddy dating is like the way that they like go to each other in the cars is the same way as when Rizzo, the gossip is going around her about potentially being pregnant, like they do it the exact same way. And then I thought they did like a really great job of setting up like, you know, that this is the episode where we learn about like Frenchie and Betty and the fact that like we're getting to see like the older siblings, and I thought that was really cool. And
Yeah, I in this first episode, The Good Girl Act, I thought it was the strong song with Olivia singing that. Like it's kind of similar to Sandra D from like kind of like similar energy, I think. And so this rumor gets spread that Buddy and Jane had sex. And so her relationship is kind of, I mean, her reputation is kind of tarnished at Rydell High. So that's kind of sets up our story with, and then them both running for student body president. And did you ever run for a town? I mean, school council?
Yeah, I was the class historian for like 3 of the 4 years of high school.
Oh, nice.
What does that mean? I don't know. I didn't really do much, but
yeah.
But you know, it was fun. I thought the strongest song for me in the first episode was New Cool. I thought it just really showed off Cynthia's like story, and Ari Terasmo's like vocals, and I liked that whole like just parallel to Grease Lightning. I thought it did a really good job with that.
So then we had Too Pure to Be Pink was episode 2. And then I think that this is when we get I Want More, and I do think this number and her vocal performance was the highlight of the show. I think it was the best musical number, the best song. It was really good.
Yeah, that was my favorite song for sure. She'd actually talked about how that song wasn't even in the show. They realized at the end, after filming the first 2 episodes, they were like, we need like something else. We need like something for Jane. And that's why when they film it, like she's all alone and there's nobody else there, because they had to just like add it, you know?
Oh, really? That's interesting.
So I thought that was so cool. And they did a lot of like cool effects with like the lockers and lifting her up and everything. I also did really like World Without Boys as well. And I thought that there was some really fun references to the sleepover that the girls have in the original Grease there. So
the summary is Jane, Olivia, Cynthia, and Nancy officially become pink ladies when a moral panic drives them to create their own narrative. And then this is the beginning of Richie and Jane in this one. And they also get rid of the detention because it's just causing more problems for
I gotta say, in this one, I watched that scene with Cynthia talking about the caca and my khakis with the castor oil like so many times. It was so funny. That's like one of the moments where I like cackled in my room. Like I just think it's hilarious. I don't know, maybe I like potty humor. I don't know. I just thought it was so funny. And this wasn't my favorite song, but I did think it was cool that like the opening number was a telephone hour Bye Bye Birdie reference.
I'd written that. I think the song is called Did You Hear the News or something like that. But yeah, I wrote that down too. Telephone from Bye Bye Birdie. I was in Bye Bye Birdie in high school, so I have an affection for it.
Love it.
I was both in the chorus. I was basically just in all the chorus scenes. So I was both a teenager and a parent in the kids number, you know.
Yeah, I was.
What's the matter with
Mrs.
kids
Merkel? Is that like Kim's best friend's mom or something? So random.
It's a great show for high school because it has so many solos and so many group songs. Because you don't want to do like in my opinion, high school theater should have as many parts as possible so as many people can participate as possible. And you want as many like in my opinion, you should be able to make the chorus scenes as big as anyone who wants to participate, because you don't know if you like something until you get a chance to do it. So if you do these shows in high school that have like 7 parts, then nobody gets to participate. So I think Bye Bye Birdie is really good in that level of it just has lots of group scenes. It has lots of solos. It's just a great show for people to try out and see if they like it. I think.
Also, I'll say in the second episode, I feel like the musical numbers we did get, like I Want More and The World Without Boys, I thought they were really creative. You know, like the way that they like set up the scenes, like, with World Without Boys, where they're like popping the boys into confetti and like getting rid of them, and like the way that they like started like rewinding some of the dance moves. I don't know. I thought that they started like doing some really interesting things that they keep doing throughout the rest of the season, where like they make really creative choices with the musical performances.
I can see that. Yeah.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
So then the next episode is called So This Is Rydell, and this is the school election approaches and both sides re-examine what they stand for. New girl Hazel starts her first day at Rydell and tries to stay impartial and invisible. We get our big kiss between Richie and Jane in this one. And we get some hints about Hazel and Buddy. So yeah, this episode. And
Is this the one? Did you take the wheel in this one, right?
I didn't write it down. I forgot.
I think they did.
Probably, yeah.
Where they're like talking about their like plans for their, that's like another debate.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I like that song a lot, and like I feel like there's a lot of like Romeo and Juliet, like High School Musical vibes in that episode.
Then we have If You Can't Be an Athlete, Be an Athletic Supporter. This is one of the better episodes. Well, actually, I think the next episode is probably my favorite, but this one, it's the administration is determined to squash the brewing teenage rebellion at Rydell. A new scandal galvanizes Olivia to take action, but causes Jane to consider giving up. This, I think, Pointed Fingers, that was one of the highlights.
That one.
That was a really strong song, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
And so there's this dress code. People take away their jackets, so that there's no gang memorabilia or whatever in this one. And then you have this big pep rally in this episode.
Oh yeah.
And so then the next episode, it's kind of interesting because it's directed by Jennifer Morrison, who, if you're a Once Upon a Time fan, so I thought that was interesting. This is the big Halloween episode. You Can't Just Walk Out of a Drive-In, it's called. And on Halloween, a last-minute move by Buddy and the Sox threatens to blow up Jane's campaign, and romance proves to be tricky for the Pink Ladies.
I mean, Merely Players was the standout to me in this one. I thought that was an incredible song. I thought that one was great, and it was fun to see them, dress up for Halloween and stuff. And
yeah,
I think you really get to see like Buddy go through like a lot more in this kind of like section where he's just trying to figure out how to like be a better person.
I felt for Richie though in this episode.
Yeah.
Oh,
I related to Jane. I was like, girl, you have your own jacket. I get it.
He wants to give Jane his jacket, and then he sees her getting kind of cozy with Buddy, and I was going to give you my jacket. I don't want your jacket.
Is this also the episode where Nancy, right, had like they bring up like a potential love interest for Nancy? So that was like a little fun little mystery she's trying to figure out.
Oh yeah.
Likes me. Yeah.
Yeah, and we get a lot with Lydia and Cynthia in this episode. A lot of rehearsing going on. And then this whole scene with Jane and Buddy, and he's saying, "I'm inspired by you." And we get
he loves a smart girl. He really
does.
He's into the nerdy girls.
Jane and Hazel.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we had sloppy seconds, Ema style. With the election over, Cynthia questions whether the Pink Lady's relationship will be the same as she rehearses for the play. As the girls consider who they are without each other, they make unexpected connections. Nancy struggles to delegate her vision to Hazel while making costumes for the play. Jane and Susan, at the peak of their frustrations with another, are forced to take driver's ed together, and Olivia must ask for Mr. Daniel's help to do an investigation for the newspaper. So yes, this one, at least this one, we, I think, get introduced to Betty Rizzo as a character.
She was introduced in the first episode with.
Was she?
Yeah.
I wrote her down on this one.
Oh, maybe this is the one where it's revealed that her brother is Gil.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe that was it. I don't have a ton of notes for this episode, but yeah, it's just kind of the fallout of the election. Is this one. And then we
did have the fun brusha reference in that one, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The little I Panic toothpaste commercial.
Oh yeah.
That's
Then they have Cruising for a Bruisin'. This is one for the boys. Richie is torn up over Jane, but rather than deal with it, he escapes with the T-Birds on a once-in-a-lifetime excursion that promises girls, games, and glory. But when things go sideways, each of the T-Birds will have to confront the things they're running from. Back in Rydell, a conversation makes Buddy wonder if everything he knows about himself is actually true. So they go off to Volcano Island.
That wasn't really my favorite plot point. I feel like for me, the best part of this episode was Buddy figuring out his life and like his pulling strings song. The T-Bird stuff, those are kind of the ones I skipped, those songs.
Yeah.
No
I can
offense.
see that.
They sound good. It's just not my favorite.
What did you think of Susan and Jane driving that whole thing?
I feel like Susan is an interesting character because, Jane really wants to give her the benefit of the doubt, I feel like, over the course of the season, and kind of be like, well, like, maybe we can be cool. But then Susan continues to do things throughout the season that, like, sometimes she's helping and sometimes she's like not, especially as we get towards the end.
She also has this really controlling mother who's putting a lot of pressure on her. So I think they try to flesh out her motivations a little bit, not just make her a total shrew. But and her mother's giving her these pills to take and all of that. So then we end up in this scene, we have Hazel ends up in the play. So that's kind of and she has a big song. And then we also have this thing with Buddy getting the DJ to play at the prom, and that's like a big deal. And so then you have both Richie and Buddy like going basically pitching to Jane, and I forget which one. Well, it looks like you got two offers.
Yeah, I actually respected that they were like, take your time, like Richie in particular, like he's been so stressed, and then he like comes up to her door and he's like, you choose what you want to do.
Yeah. I forget. I think it's Olivia in the next episode though that's like, pick a boy.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. If only all nerds could have Jane's problem, right? So yeah, and then I think the next Richie leaves and I don't think we see him again. So that was kind of surprising to me. And so then we have at the high school dance. The Pink Ladies must team up with Susan to get the school dance they envision approved by the PTA. When nothing goes as planned, friendships are broken and secrets are revealed, leading to major consequences. Along the way, the Pink Ladies debate whether Susan or anyone can really change. Nancy and Cynthia are afflicted with crushes, but deal with them in very different ways. So basically, they decide nothing's going right at this dance, and so they end up moving it over to the diner.
Yeah, I loved the crushing me song that Cynthia and Nancy had, and I also like I said before, loved the Land Don't the Wally and Hazel song Land Don't Look So Bad. Those were like two highlights I thought of this episode. And then of course seeing Dot dressed up like Sandy, like she full on went Sandy. She had the look. She was like up stud. She even like put out the cigarette and stepped on it. You know, like she did the full you know, sassy Sandy.
Well, and I thought it was interesting, the whole plot that they did with Cynthia with this guy that he I don't know, you usually don't see that kind of a thing where like the girl's more aggressive and the guy's like, what are you doing? You know, I don't know. I thought that because obviously she's doing it out of her anger of what's going on with Lydia. And so, but I don't know. I just thought I thought that character, for being a really minor character, was pretty interesting.
Yeah. That whole thing with like Cynthia going with Shy Guy and Richie going with Dot to the dance reminded me of Kaneki and Rizzo going with different people to the school dance to like make the other ones jealous. I was getting those.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, that makes sense.
And we get to see where the hand jibe originated.
Yes.
Friends better.
Yeah. All right. So then we have You're Dropping Out of Rydell. Like I said, this was Nancy's big episode. It's a storm hits Rydell as everyone deals with the fallout of the dance. The Pink Ladies each get what they've always wanted, but find out it's not all it's cracked up to be. Jane tries to undo the damage she's caused while Olivia considers a big decision. Nancy vows to keep the gang together, but when things look hopeless, she gets help from an unexpected source. With the school in a blackout, the future of the Pink Ladies seems more uncertain than ever. So we already talked about it a little bit. Brutal Honesty is the name of the song. It was the homage to Beauty School Dropout, and I think that was a very fun song.
Honestly, I feel like this episode, I liked all the songs. Face to Face, I thought was really cool. I'm in Love. I've been like listening to that one a lot on repeat. And then Brutal Honesty, I thought was like a fun, the fun Teen Angel song. I think I liked this. This might be one of the episodes where I like loved all the songs in it.
Yeah, that's the one with Wally and Hazel's song, right?
No, that was the last
episode. Oh, last one. And then Nancy and Potato. This one are funny. They're good. Yeah. And so then the finale is called Racing for Pinks, and Jane makes a dangerous proposition that will change the future of Rydell High forever. Meanwhile, Olivia makes some big decisions towards her future. So in the last episode, she basically gets engaged to Mr. Daniels. Terrible. And they're going to get married. And so we see that here. The girls end up stealing the principal's car so that they can go and stop the wedding, or at least be present at the wedding. And she basically says, like, if I've got my girls, I don't need you.
And I felt like that was like the overall message of this show, was kind of like, they got each other, despite like, their differences, or like whether they fit in or not, like, they have a group that like, they're always there for each other no matter what, and like they'll support each other. And I think that's what made like the Pink Ladies like the standout to me, of like, the love triangles, whatever, but like the heart of this show was like the Pink Ladies to me. I liked a lot of songs in this one out also. Yeah,
there was a lot of homages to the ending of Grease for this final for the episode. The Shake Shack, all the carnival stuff, that was all right from Grease, and so that was fun. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, even the Pink, like the lines specifically of like their whatever they made up of them, their like rules of how to be a Pink Lady, like that was from Grease 2, like straight pulled from Grease 2.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was cool. Act cool, look cool, be cool, think pink. Like those, I didn't realize that they were gonna like really be pulling a lot of stuff from Grease 2, but they pulled a fair amount of stuff throughout the season. I feel like there was a lot of fun, like little Easter eggs in this one, like just throughout the whole thing, like the fact that they're doing a race. They always do a race. They always some kind of car race.
Mm.
The fact that, Susan is cheating, getting somebody out, like the similar type of thing happened a little bit in Greece. The St. Bernadette's girls watching the race,
They're like terrible drivers.
right? Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But driving those old cars is really hard. Like not only obviously stick shift, but like but it's hard to get into gear. And they don't have like power steering the same way that modern cars. It's harder to drive those cars.
Yeah. Even the stuff like that, they talk about like needing a carburetor and then they like steal it from the principal's car. And like in the original Grease, they talk about like needing like a 4-barrel carburetor and they're like, oh, we'll just borrow it from someone. Wink, wink. And it's like, oh, there you go. Full
Yeah.
circle there.
That's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, and like I said, especially like the carnival, like they have them on the Shake Shack and they have them, just different things that you see in
Yeah.
the.
And I feel
So
like
that was
All
fun.
In it was so jazzy and beautiful, but it was also, it felt like their own You're the One That I Want,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Cynthia and Lydia, which I thought was really nice to like
Yeah.
that was like the big love story that got like the big finale song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so then they invite Hazel into the Pink Ladies, and so that was fun. And yeah, so overall, I enjoyed the show more than I thought I would. Like I said, I feel like it was its own thing, but it had all of those homages like you're talking about. And of course, it ends with a big introduction of Danny Zuko, which was super fun.
And Danny Zuko's older brother, Frankie Zuko from New York. Oh, that, and again, like I don't even like Grease, but all these little connections to them, I was like, what? I can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can see he's wearing the same ring that his brother eventually gets, and like,
Mm-hmm.
oh,
It'll
and
be interesting to see if we get a second season, because I have a feeling this is not a cheap show, and that's my worry, is that we won't get, because it seems like this is a very expensive show.
yeah. I also saw this interview with the girl who plays Jane, Marissa Davia, that when they filmed that, they filmed 2 different versions. One where she was like hopeful and kind of like curious.
Mm-hmm.
One where she was like angry, and then they were gonna like, they didn't know until it came out like which version they
Oh.
did, and I was like, ooh, like what's her connection with Frankie Zuko? Did he date her? Was he? I don't know. What happened? I can't wait to find out. And then, but then that also I feel like is such a cool introduction, because then they can introduce a young Danny. The fact that like young Frenchie and young Rizzo like can't get into the Pink Ladies and they want to form their own group means like, are they going to like introduce a young Marty or a young Jan?
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard like rumors of like, oh, is this one girl from St. Bernadette's, is that Cha-Cha? Like, like, and it's like, oh, maybe like these people will come in, and it's just like exciting.
It could be really fun. It really could.
Yeah.
So
I'd love to see them I'd love to see them even like do a new take on like if they keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Like what would it look like?
And I mean, Paramount has been known to like spend big and keep shows going, like I mean with the Star Trek shows that they've done, so let's hope that this also gets that same treatment.
Yeah. I feel like they are like still trying to find their like big shows, and I feel like people were kind of into School Spirits. Like I heard people talking about that. I have been hearing people talking about this show now. I don't know if it's just because now I'm obsessed with it, so now my whole For You page is Grease. I don't know, but
I guess they have all those Yellowstone shows, but I think those are in Paramount. I don't know, I've lost track, but anyway, so yeah, hopefully it gets enough of a following that we get a season 2, but I'm always going to be for musical. I'm a sucker for musicals, so I like musicals that nobody else likes. So let us know what you think of the show. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section or on Twitter. And thanks so much for doing this, Kristen. And if people want to follow you, you've got your Easter egg video, other stuff for the show.
Oh yeah. I went on a crazy deep dive, man. I can't even, there's things that I know about Grease that I never thought I would know about Grease because of this video. So if you're interested in checking it out, it's on my YouTube, youtube.com/Maldo. Or you can check out my site at popcultureplanet.net, where I cover the world of entertainment while shining light on representation and inclusion.
Yeah, very good. Yes, and you can find me at Rachel's Reviews all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. And I'll put my review from last year. I did stage and screen for Grease last year, and that was a lot of fun. And so take a look at that. And also, I'll put a link down to my interview with Mary Lou Henner, who was in the original, like even before Broadway, OG Grease. So it's very interesting to hear what she has to say, because it wasn't even musical at first. And
Really?
so yeah.
Wow.
And it was really raunchy and really like it's evolved a lot over the years. So I'll put a link down to that as well, because Mary Lou is amazing. And but again, let us know what you think. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And please follow us at Hallmarkies Pod, Hallmarkies Podcast, all over social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really helps us a lot. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our Patreon group where we do watch alongs every month with people like Mary Lou Henner. It was so fun. So check that out. And then we also have the merch store, which is a lot of fun as well. Take a look at that. And thanks so much. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.